coming up on the July edition of Channel 12's Lakeside News. LMCC's Master of Avoiding Danger is back. This month, he'll give viewers some important bike safety tips. An utterly unique farmers market returns to Maple Plain this summer, and it will be bigger and better than ever. We'll feature the city of Greenwood in another edition of the Member City Showcase. And the West Tonka Historical Society will take us on a walk down memory lane and tell us all about the history of Mound. Lakeside News is next. Hi, I'm Chris Feld, and welcome to Lakeside News, where you'll find news and events from around the lake area. Well, it's time for another edition of the LMCC Safety Expert. This month's everyone's favorite master of avoiding danger heads to Spring Park to give viewers some valuable bike safety tips. That guy sure looks familiar.
And now it's time for Lake Minnetonka's favorite champion of safety, protector of humankind, and master of avoiding danger, the LMCC's safety expert.
Oh, sorry ma'am, I thought you were a cardinal. Oh, hello. Welcome to another edition of the LMCC Safety Expert. I'm your host, Chris Feld, LMCC Safety Expert. I was just doing some bird watching on my favorite trail here in Spring Park, Minnesota. Now today we're going to give you some important bike safety tips. Why? Because as a master safety expert, it's my job to keep you safe this summer. Now, things didn't go exactly as planned last time on the Safety Expert, now did they? Well, I sure won't let that happen again, now will I? Hey, are you laughing at me, camera operator? Look at me when I'm talking to you. You're the one who told me to stand that close to the street anyway. Oh, camera operator, I'm sorry. Why don't we let bygones be bygones? What do you say? Great! Now let's give our viewers some important bike safety tips. Well, I'm on my bike now, and we're about to head out for a ride. But first things first, always protect yourself from injury. Be sure to always wear a bike helmet. Oh, whoops, let's try that again. All right, that's better. Also, always check to make sure you have enough air in your tires. And be sure to always check your brakes. Make sure to always bring your water bottle. And sunglasses. You always need to look cool on the trails. And some bubbles, just in case you get bored. Cool. And last but not least, always bring some gummy worms for sustenance. All right, now we're ready to head on down the trail so I can give you some more important bike safety tips. Here we go. Hey, who took off my training wheels?
Whether during the day or at night, you need to be seen by others. Always wear neon, fluorescent, or other bright colors when riding. Try to wear something that reflects light, such as reflective tape or flashing lights. Remember, just because you can see a driver doesn't mean the driver can see you. Be on the lookout for hazards such as potholes, broken glass, gravel, and puddles. Always give pedestrians the right of way. Ride on the right in the same direction as other vehicles, and always use hand signals when turning or stopping. I've asked two of my junior safety experts to help demonstrate the right way to signal.
That's right, hand signals are very important. If you would like to make a left turn, put your arm out like this. If you would like to make a right turn, put your arm up like this. If you would like to stop or slow down, put your arm in a downward position. Now you try it, safety expert.
Hey kids, like this?
Oh man.
Also when riding, be predictable and ride in a straight line. Bicyclists are encouraged to maintain a 3-foot clearance from any motor vehicles, even when riding past parked cars. When you ride in the street, obey all traffic signs, signals, and lane markings just as if you were in a car. Always ride with at least one hand on the handlebars. Children less than 10 years old are not mature enough to make the decisions necessary to ride in the street and are better off riding on a sidewalk. And remember, always ride carefully.
Well, I'm sure you all learned some important bike safety tips. I know I sure did. And, I think I've got this whole bike riding thing figured out. So until next time, this is the LMCC Safety Expert. Wow, that tree came out of nowhere. Coming up after the break, an utterly unique farmers market returns to Maple Plain. Lakeside News returns in a moment.
You are watching the LMCC, the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission's community television channels. The LMCC is starting negotiations with our cable television service provider, Mediacom, regarding renewal terms for the existing 15-year cable television franchise for our area. We are interested in hearing your comments regarding Mediacom's current service and possible future service suggestions. You may communicate with us via our email address, franchise@lmcc-tv.org, via postal mail to Franchise Renewal, Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, P.O. Box 385, Spring Park, Minnesota, 55384-0385. Or you may call and leave us a voicemail message at 952-279-2404.
One of our duties here at the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, or LMCC, is to assist members of our community with any cable-related issues. If you're having problems with your cable service, please call us at 952-471-7125.
Hi neighbor, have you heard about the Udder Market? Udder Market is an utterly different market where you can shop for great green products and organic fruits and veggies. Come on in and graze on some locally grown goodies and listen to some hoof stomping music. Here's a sneak peek on this summer's fun. As you can see, the Udder Market is an utterly fun time, and we hope to see you there.
Don't miss this utterly unique farmers market. Each week will be in Maple Plain right off of Highway 12 and Main Street on Thursdays from 3 to 7 p.m. starting on July 7th. For more information on their weekly events, go to www.uddermarket.com.
Coming up next, we'll feature the City of Greenwood in this month's edition of the Member City Showcase. Lakeside News returns in a moment.
I'm Jen Olson, State Senator from Senate District 33, which serves all of the Lake Minnetonka communities within Hennepin County. I always appreciate the opportunity to come and be a part of Capital Update, and also I welcome hearing from many constituents who say they have watched the program. So thank you for the wonderful service that you give to our whole area at Lake Minnetonka Cable Communications.
Set on the shores of Lake Minnetonka, the quiet community of Greenwood, Minnesota is home to nearly 800 residents. The aptly named City on the Lake is located 20 minutes west of Minneapolis, just off Highway 7. While most people living in the metro travel hours to reach their lake cabins on the weekends, residents of this scenic bedroom community enjoy their close proximity to Lake Minnetonka for their summer and winter recreational needs. Part of Greenwood surrounds St. Albans Bay, which offers a quiet retreat from the larger part of Lake Minnetonka. Residents living on the Excelsior Bay portion of the lake can enjoy spectacular sunsets over a larger expanse of water. Greenwood was once part of Excelsior Township, dating back to the 1850s. As the area grew, Greenwood residents became fearful of being annexed by the village of Excelsior. Not wanting to lose its own identity, Greenwood became a city in 1956. The city's most recognizable landmark, the Old Log Theater, was established in 1940. The Old Log has been recognized as one of the most popular theaters in the country and has entertained over 6 million patrons in over half a century. It has also been a launching pad for many top-name actors, including Nick Nolte, Lonnie Anderson, and Dave Moore. And for a time, Greenwood City Council meetings were held at the Old Log Theater. The Southwest Regional Trail runs through Greenwood and is ideal for biking, hiking, walking, or running. The trail extends through other LMCC member cities, including Deep Haven, Excelsior, Shorewood, and Victoria. Emergency services are provided by the Excelsior Fire District and the South Lake Minnetonka Police Department. 5 cities, through a joint powers agreement, make up the Excelsior Fire District. Those cities are Deep Haven, Excelsior, Greenwood, Shorewood, and Tonka Bay. Chief Gerber heads the EFD, and you can call the Excelsior Fire District at 952-960-1650. 4 cities, Excelsior, Greenwood, Shorewood, and Tonka Bay, comprise the South Lake Minnetonka Police Department. Brian Litzy heads the organization as the SLMPD Police Chief. The South Lake Minnetonka Police Department number is 952-474-3261. Greenwood holds their city council meetings at Deep Haven City Hall, which is located at 20225 Cottagewood Road. If you'd like more information, please call 952-474-6633 or email greenwood@visi.com. You can also check out their website anytime at www.cityofgreenwoodmn.com. Unlike most Lake Minnetonka communities, Greenwood has changed the lease since becoming incorporated in 1956, and that's just the way the citizens like it. Although a small city in size and population, Greenwood is an integral part of the Lake Minnetonka community.
Coming up after the break, the West Tonka Historical Society will take us down memory lane and tell us all about the history of Mound.
Good afternoon. How many days of school do you have left? 2. So I should hurry this up so you can finish this day. Is that right? I understand. My name is Jeannie Brewstead, and I taught here for 25 years, so I know that you want to get out of here. Teachers also count till the end of the year. And in 1852, Governor Alexander Ramsey, he was the first governor of the territory of Minnesota when Minnesota became a territory, and then he later became the second governor of the state when it became a state. He wrote in his diary as he came upon Lake Minnetonka for the first time. He said, "The lake was a perfect inland sea, surrounded by the most beautiful timber, and wherever we landed, the soil was of the richest character." He knew that the Indians called the lake Minnetonka. That's the Dakota word for the water they speak of as large. So Colonel Ramsey named the lake Minnetonka. In 1858, Minnesota became a state, and they divided the state into lots of counties. And as each county was platted and settled by people, they divided it into lots of townships. This is Hennepin County. It's a map of the whole county where we live. And that black box is around what was the township of Minnetrista. And if you'll look real carefully, you'll see that Mound is inside the township of Minnetonka, or of Minnetrista rather, and St. Bonifacius is also in the township of Minnetrista. That's the way it was in the beginning. There was no Mound, there was no St. Bonnie. They were all part of the township of Minnetrista. And that township even was called something different. In the very beginning, it was called Germanholm. However, later they changed it to Minnetrista. And they changed it to Minnetrista because they took another Dakota word. And that Dakota word is, Minnetrista means crooked water. And if you look at all the waters that come around by Lake Minnetonka, there's no straight line, there's no nice round lake like some of the lakes are. It's all crooked, it's a crooked water. And that's where Minnetrista got its name. Most of the bays in our community are named after many of the first settlers that came here. Each one brought something important that we needed to this community. A skill that had helped them to develop, that they developed, that the community needed. We've already talked about Matthias Cook, who had Cook's Bay named after him. Captain Frank Halstead built his log cabin on the southwest corner of Halstead's Bay because it was named after him. Harrison's Bay was named for Nathaniel Harrison, who settled there in 1856. Robert Langdon came in 1857, and Lake Langdon is named for him. Others who came before the Civil War were Frank Carman, Andrew and Joseph Bowl, and the Bowles still have family living in the area. So they've been here for 150 years. The Hermits of Minnetonka. In 1855, Captain Frank Halstead purchased 30 acres of land on what is now known as Halstead's Bay. He built his cabin there. In those days, lots of people named their houses when they built property. And he called his little log cabin that he built Rough and Ready. But then he went to go off to the war. The Civil War started, and he was a Navy officer, so he had to go and fight in the war. He actually was the captain or the colonel of the Navy ship called Minnesota. And his brother was also on that ship, Major George Halstead. But after the war, he returned to Minnesota, and he built a bigger house. He built this house that we're looking at now, and he named it the Hermitage. He was the first justice of the peace. He was the first guy to perform the first marriage in Minnesota. This building and the fact that a single man who lived sort of a life of a hermit for some reason was a curiosity to visitors to the area. Some used to come, and one of the sights that they went to see was the Hermitage. This is what Mound looked like in 1912 when it was incorporated as a city. This is the intersection right here. That pole that's kind of in the middle, that's about where Crow River Bank is. Kind of right, the bank is kind of about right behind there. And that's where that intersection is. And that's what it looked like in 1912. So you can see it wasn't big, but it was still kind of about where it is now. It had kind of the same streets that it does now, but that's where it was. The train came that far. The depot, the reason, remember when we talked about the city started out being down by the lake? When the train came to town, it moved to where the train was. How many of you walked on the Dakota Trail, or ridden your bike on the Dakota Trail, or rollerbladed on the Dakota Trail? That was the railroad track that brought people all the way out here. And in about the early 1900s, 1902, when the railroad track finally got to Mound, that's where it was. So the city had to move where the railroad was because that's where the supplies came. They didn't want to be way down by the lake anymore. Mrs. John Chapman built a casino in 1900. In those days, a casino wasn't a casino like we think of now. It was a lakeshore building for community recreation on the shore and on the lake. Later, it was known as Surfside. Think of that name, Surfside. This building lasted for over 80 years and was used for many activities. How many of you had parents or grandparents that grew up in Mound? Some of you do. Those of you that have your hands up, you go home tonight and you ask your parents or your grandparents if they ever went to the Surfside. Because here's what was at the Surfside. There was roller skating, water skiing shows, water ski clubs, dances, pool tables, eating on the deck. There was even a bowling alley. Ask your parents or your grandparents if they did any of those activities at the Surfside. On Lake Langdon, we have a picture, it's kind of a cartoony picture of what was called Soley's Grocery Store. Right now that building, that very same building, is called Green Tea Accounting. And the Soley brothers were uncles of the Andrews sisters, and that's why we're even talking about them. The Andrews sisters were a popular singing group in the early 30s all the way through the 50s. They sold over 75 million records. They sold more records than the state of Minnesota, or more records than the state of Minnesota. They sold more records than Elvis Presley during his time. They are important to the history of Mound because they used to spend their summers in Mound. Now, it's a little interesting about what used to happen. After the people started vacationing here, they would build a summer cottage around the lake around Lake Minnetonka, but they might live in Minneapolis or in St. Paul. So the kids in the fall, they'd start school in Mound, and then when it got cool and their parents had to go back to their winter home, they'd move back to Minneapolis and they'd go to school in Minneapolis. And then when it got spring again and it was warm enough to come back out to their lake cottage, they'd come back out to their lake cottage. So some kids went to school year-round here because they lived here all the time, but some kids went to school just in the fall and the spring. Wouldn't that be interesting to go to two different schools every school year when you were growing up? Now, probably one of the things Mound is most known for is Tonka Toys. Tonka Toys was started in Mound in 1946. It was called Mound Metalcraft in the beginning, and they built this dump truck. It's kind of one of their classic dump trucks. And they discovered that it was very popular because it was durable. It just never broke. I bet if you talk again to your parents, regardless where they grew up, they, especially your dads or your grandpas, they had lots of Tonka toys. My brothers had Tonka toys everywhere because they were strong. You could stand on them. You couldn't break them. Toys of today you can kind of break, but they were made out of metal and you couldn't break them. They were called Mound Metalcraft until 1955, and in 1955 they were named Tonka Toys. You were an incredibly great audience, and I really believe that because this is the end of the school day. I know it's hard to pay attention at the end of the school day to anything. I'm tired and I haven't been sitting in class all day. So you are incredible. I bet the 7th grade teachers are excited to have you come next year because you're such a neat class. Thank you very much for being such a good audience.
It's your community, it's your airport. Being aware and vigilant is the best defense against the ongoing threat of terrorism. As users of the airport, you are our eyes and ears. If you see anything suspicious at or near MSP International Airport, report it to the airport police.
The very real and deliberate threat that this nation faces is not confined to the airport. If you see suspicious activity anywhere in the community, report it to your local police department. You are an important part of keeping our communities safe.
Keep an eye out and keep our airport safe.
Be aware, be vigilant, and be safe.
Well, there you have it, news and events happening in and around the lake area. If you have a news story or see something exciting going on, please let us know. We can be reached here at the LMCC at 952-471-7125, via email at lmcc@lmcc-tv.org. Or please check us out on the website at www.lmcc-tv.org. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Channel 12's Lakeside News.